Hi everyone, Allie here from the Family Meeple, and welcome to the first video in my 2023 Top 100 Board Games of All Time series. This is the first video in which I'm going to be talking about games 100 through 91 on my list. If you haven't checked out the introduction video that I filmed and shared earlier, I'll link it in the description below so that you can check it out. I talk a little bit in that video about how I ranked the games that are on the list and a little bit about my earlier top 100 that I did in 2021. So on these videos, I will talk about where the game fell on my list from 2021 if it appeared on that list. However, 66 of the games on my current top 100 are new and were not on the list in 2021. So you'll see a lot of new games in here if you've been following along for a while or have read through the blog posts from my 2021 list. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Coming in at number 100 is Black Sonata. Black Sonata was designed by John Keane, and the artwork was also by John Keane, and the copy that I have was published by TGG Games. Black Sonata is a primarily solo game that is hidden movement and deduction. I picked up Black Sonata in 2021, and so this one was actually not on my list. This is a new entry to the list for 2023. It was published in 2017, and like I said, it's primarily a solo game, although I believe you can play it two-player cooperative, but I picked it up as a primarily solo play game. In Black Sonata, you are trying to find Shakespeare's Black Lady as she is moving around, I believe, London and the countryside, and you are doing this by working through a deck of cards that shows the movement of the Black Lady throughout the map. And there's several different configurations that you can set up this deck of movement and several different difficulty levels that you can also play the game on. I'm not very good at it. I tend to lose on really any of the moderate difficulty or higher levels, but it's a ton of fun. It seems like something that shouldn't work, but it definitely does. And it's one that I enjoy pulling out for solo. It plays very quickly. And again, it's just one that I have enjoyed for solo play. So 100, that is Black Sonata. Number 99 is My Little Scythe. My Little Scythe was published by Stonemaier Games in 2017. It was designed by Hobby Cho and Vienna Cho with artwork by Noah Edelman and Katie Cow. I picked up this game in 2020 to play with my daughters because it is a family weight game based on the original Scythe from Stonemaier Games. My Little Scythe did appear on my top 100 list in 2021. It was originally ranked at number 29, so it has dropped 70 places. Again, with 66 new games on the list, this drop is actually not that much, with it being a primarily family weight game that I play with my daughters. In My Little Scythe, players will take on the different animal clans with two little miniatures that they will be moving around the board. Your objective is to complete goals during the game, and the first person to achieve the set number of goals, which I think is 3 or 4, maybe 4, is the winner. So goals will include things like making pies with apples, increasing your friendship level, delivering gems or apples to the center city, or going on quests. There's plenty of different ways to achieve goals, and it allows players to really just kind of do what they want to. What I'm doing is not necessarily what everyone else has to do, and just because I go one route doesn't mean that if you neglect that you might not win. Because again, all of the goals are equal in the outcome of the game. It's a really fun little game for families. My daughter Rory has really enjoyed this one and asked to play it quite a bit. She loves getting into pie fights with mom, and it's one that still will hit the table quite regularly. So that is number 99, My Little Scythe. Number 98 is Tiny Epic Western. Tiny Epic Western is another game that did appear on my list in 2021. In 2021, it came in at number 22. Tiny Epic Western was published by Gamelin Games in 2016. It's from designer Scott Alms, and the artwork is by Adam McIver. So this is another one that has fallen pretty significantly from my 2021 rating, and it actually dropped 76 places from when I did this ranking in 2021. I have primarily played Tiny Epic Western solo, although I have played it multiplayer as well, and I do enjoy it in both of those modes. I think it dropped honestly on the list just from sort of recency bias. I haven't played it lately solo. I need to get it back to the table, but it's a really fun little Western themed game. You are using poker cards to create kind of Texas Hold'em style 3-hand poker hands at different locations, and you combine that with worker placement. The multiplayer is extremely fun if you're okay with a little bit of sort of take that. So like I said, it's a worker placement game, and you will be placing your workers out at different locations around the town, which is built out with a central sort of set of mats that represent different buildings and locations. And you will be either taking a location and betting on that you will win the pot at that location with your poker card, or just taking a slightly smaller reward in a lot of the locations. But the fun thing is that even though your worker has been placed somewhere, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get that spot, because other players can send their worker to the same spot and duel you. And the duel is handled with bullet-shaped dice, which you'll roll, and the person who rolls the highest wins the duel. And you actually take your little cowboy meeple and you set it on top of the other player. So you'll lay the other player down and set your meeple on top to show that you've won the duel. At the end, you'll also be looking for set collection, and each of the rounds you will be sort of bidding at the town hall with your poker hand to set the value of each of the 3 different resources for the end of the game. And so you are wanting to increase the value of the icons that you are collecting on the cards that you're buying throughout the game. So that is number 98, Tiny Epic Western. Number 97 is Gnoming Around, published by Grandpa Beck's Games. This game was released in 2020. It was designed by Brent Beck with artwork from David Bach and April Stott. This is a new game to the list. This was not on my list in 2021. As I said, it did come out in 2020. I don't believe I owned it at the time when this came out. But Gnoming Around is a simple card game that is based on the classic 52 card deck game of golf. So I don't know how many people played this, but it's a game that I played growing up as a child with my grandfather. I remember sitting around the table with just a deck of cards and playing golf. The premise is essentially that you have a set of cards that are face down in front of you that are your cards. And throughout the game, you're going to be drawing cards and replacing the cards that are in front of you. So you can either replace a face-up card, which you know what it is, or you can replace a face-down card and hope that it's one that you didn't want or one that you are willing to get rid of. And you want to have the lowest score at the end of the round. So in Gnoming Around, you will have a display of 9 cards. It's a 3x3 grid in front of you. One of them will be face up, and your goal is to have the columns and or rows be the same number. If the columns and the rows are the same number, then you'll score negative points equal to the value of that column or row. So if I have the top row is all sixes, then that's -6 points, which is good. There's also wild cards, there are mulligan cards, there are hazard cards that come up and do sort of different little things. And then any cards that you have not matched up at the end of the round when someone has flipped their last of the 9 cards face up, then those will be positive points. And you'll just add up all of the points, both negative and positive, and the person with the lowest number of points is the winner. You can play a single round game or you can play over multiple rounds. The rounds play extremely quickly, and it's one that has worked really well for our family. My daughters both enjoy playing it. They can both play it without help or assistance, and it's one that for me has a lot of nostalgia to it. In Gnoming Around, it is based on a gnome theme, like a garden gnome theme. So the artwork is absolutely adorable, and it has all these just really cute little gnomes, and it's just super fun from an art perspective. So that is number 97, Gnoming Around. Number 96 is also a new game to the list. This is Hardback. Hardback was published in 2018 by Fowers Games. It was designed by Jeff Beck and Tim Fowers with artwork by Ryan Goldsberry. And this is a game that I picked up in 2022. So it's one that I got last year, which is one of the reasons why it wasn't on the list. There's another game from the same designers and publishers called Paperback, which came out first, but Paperback doesn't have a solo mode in the original publication, but Hardback does. So I decided to pick up Hardback because it had the solo mode, and that's how I play a lot of my games, and most of my plays of Hardback have been with the solo mode. But I was able to teach this one to my mom as well over the holidays last year, and it went over really well. It's a game of word crafting, so it's a little bit of a mix between a standard deck building game, because it is a card game, and a game like Scrabble where you are building words. So players will have a deck of cards, and you'll draw 5 on your turn, and then you have to make a word with those cards. And everyone starts out with some pretty generic letters, some very common letters like T and S, and a bunch of vowels so that they can make words right from the beginning. And each of the cards will have a different ability on it. You can either earn money from your cards, or typically you'll earn prestige points from your cards, which is how you win. So the game will play over a number of turns. There's not really any rounds, but over just consecutive turns between the players until someone reaches 60 points. And one of the things that's fun about it is that as you are earning coins from your words that you're creating, then you're going to be able to buy new cards for your deck. And there's 4 different sort of suites of cards within the deck that you can purchase. And each of them are a different color and a different genre. So some of them are romance cards, or I think one of them's like a suspense. And I can't remember exactly what the other 2 genres are, but there's 4 genres. And when you're building your words on your turn, if you can build a word that has 2 cards that are from the same suit or genre, then not only do you get the main benefit from the card that you're playing, but you also get a bonus benefit for matching. And so you can create some really fun combos. There's also cards in there that you can cull your deck or your hand, so you can discard and trash cards out of the game and sort of clean it up so that you have the letters and the combination of genre cards that you are wanting to use. You can also spend your money on ink, which allows you to draw additional cards on your turn to play longer words than just the 5 cards that you will originally have in your hand. There's some fun kind of bonus little mini expansions in the box too that I haven't even started exploring yet, but it's definitely a fun game. I have enjoyed it. If you like word games, if you like deck building games, I would highly recommend that you check out Hardback. Number 95 is Creature Comforts. Creature Comforts was not on my list in 2021 because it just came out last year in 2022. So Creature Comforts was published by Kids Table Board Game. It was designed by Roberta Taylor with artwork by Shauna Tenney. Like I said, it was published in 2022. This is a family weight worker placement game. It is definitely solidly in the family weight games. It's very light. It's published by Kids Table Board Game, so that is definitely what they publish, is games that work for families, games that work for different age ranges. So it's something that I can play by myself or with casual gamers, with my mom, with my daughters. All of those will work in any combination. So in Creature Comforts, you are using dice as your workers in a sense. You have meeples that are your workers, but you also have dice. So you have your own 2 family dice, and you will roll those at the beginning of each round, and you know what value you have on those. And all of the worker placement locations that are out on the board will require certain combinations of dice. So maybe a location will ask you to have 2 even dice or 2 odd dice or dice that add up to at least 10 or less than 7, something like that. And so you will also have 4 community dice that will get rolled. But the trick is that you don't roll the community dice until after you've placed all of your workers. So you roll your own personal family dice, you know 2 dice for sure that you're going to have, and then you place out all of your workers at the locations in the forest on the board. And then you'll roll the family dice, and everyone will have the same family dice to use that turn or that round on their turn. And so once those community dice have been rolled, you have to figure out how to assign the combination of the community dice and the family dice out to where you put your workers. And if you can't do the action of a location because the dice don't allow you to, then you get a lesson learned token, which will allow you to mitigate the dice rolls on a future turn by increasing or decreasing the pip values. You are collecting comforts, so things like soup or blankets or board games, which is one of the really fun things about the game. But you are collecting these cards into your tableau, and then you are completing the cards by spending different types of resources. So it might be yarn or wood or stone, things like that, stories. So you have books as a resource. And you'll be building these out in front of you. There's a little bit of set collection. Some of the cards will be worth more if they're paired with another specific comfort. And then you can also earn victory points by stashing resources on some of the cards or building out different improvements for your particular family's like house board. So you can build out like a tool shed or things like that. And most of those will help you in game as well as at the end of the game. And then at the end, whoever has created the most comfortable home for the winter is the winner. So it's, like I said, it's a very light family game. I do enjoy it. I've played it quite a bit solo. The solo isn't one that I will typically gravitate towards. It's more of a game that I will be looking forward to playing with my kids and my mom when she comes to visit, so that we can play with the multi-generational game nights. So that is Creature Comforts at 95. Number 94 is Sunset Over Water. Sunset Over Water was published by Pencil First Games. It was originally published in 2018. It was designed by Eduardo Baraf, Steve Finn, and Keith Matejka, and it has artwork from Beth Sobel and Helen Zhu, I believe is how it's pronounced. I picked up this game in 2021, so it was not on my list in 2021 because I didn't own it at the time. Sunset Over Water is one of a line of games from Pencil First Games that were designed by Steve Finn and Eduardo Baraf, and several of the other ones you will actually see on my list further up. But Sunset Over Water is a great little game. It comes in a really small little box that is nice to travel with. They also actually have a pocket-sized edition of it, which is even smaller, that you literally could fit in a pocket or just throw in your purse. I own both versions of the game, and I have gifted this quite a bit as well. But in Sunset Over Water, you are essentially just doing set collection and a little bit of, it's like point-to-point movement is one of the main actions or mechanisms of the game. So in the game, you will have a deck of wake-up cards that you will select one of the 3 that you have in your hand, and the wake-up card will dictate what time you wake up, which is how you're going to determine play order for the round. And then it also will dictate how you can move your painter on the cards that are laid out on the table, because you build a grid of cards. I believe it's a 5x5 grid of these painting cards, and your painter Meeple is going to move on this grid. And then it also will tell you how many paintings you can collect or paint on your turn. So a card might say that you can move in any direction, up, down, right, left, diagonally, any direction you want. But you can only move 2 spaces, and you can only paint 1 painting. But those ones might have a really high wake up time, so you get to go first. And each of the cards is different. And so you'll play your card out to determine player order, then you'll move, you'll paint, and at the end of the round, after everyone has done their paintings, then you will see if you've completed any of the objective cards based on the paintings that you've collected. If you have, then you can turn those in and get the objective card, which is worth victory points at the end of the game. When you're playing multiplayer, you will also have a day objective each of the rounds, and it will tell you, it's typically whoever is the last person to do this thing, whatever it is, collect a card with a waterfall, something like that. Whoever's the last person to do it gets to collect that day bonus card, and those are worth victory points as well. And then I believe leftover painting symbols are worth victory points at the end too. But you're basically collecting these paintings with different symbols on them, trying to match the objective cards so that you can turn them in and complete the objectives and get points. There is also a solo mode that's included in the original box. It's very, very simple. It comes with a little AI deck of cards, and the rules are changed just slightly, but it plays mostly the same. The game is very quick, it's easy to learn, it's great for people who are new into the hobby, which is the primary reason that I have it in my collection. And honestly, artwork by Beth Sobel is always stunning, so that's another reason to take a look at Sunset Over Water. That is my number 94. Number 93 is another new game. This is Transmissions, which was published by Crosscut Games. This game was published in 2022. The designer is Adam West, and the artwork is from Matt Dixon, Peter Gifford, and Chad Hoverter, I believe is how you pronounce that. So like I said, this is a 2022 game, so it was not on my list originally in 2021. This is a game that I kickstarted in 2021 and have played quite a bit solo in 2022 after I got it during fulfillment. So Transmissions is a set collection game primarily, and it's a rondel movement game. So in Transmissions, the players will have a deck of cards that they will use on their turn to move the robots that are in the game around this rondel and take different actions based on where the robot lands. There are 4 robots of different colors, and nobody owns any of the robots. So you will play a card that either shows a specific robot, for example, the blue robot, in which case you move the blue robot. And the blue robot will move a set number of spaces depending on your individual player board and if you've upgraded that robot. Usually the robots will move between 2 and 4 spaces, and they can move up to that. Or you can play a card that says you can move a robot from a specific location, and then you still move them based on their movement. Wherever they land, you'll take that action. The actions can be gaining resources, it can be purchasing ideas or items that you'll add to your personal player board, or you can purchase pipes, which you will be building out a network of pipes, or you can buy forest cards, which will give you a benefit or a bonus. It does include a solo mode, which I have played quite a bit, and it is quite good. It's very easy to run. It does have an AI opponent, so you are going to win or lose the game. It's a little bit of a point salad. You're going to be earning points at the end for a whole bunch of different things, but it's a family weight game. It's very light, and it's one that Rory, my oldest, has played with me and enjoyed. It does take a little bit more concentration, so you want to make sure that you have a dedicated time and space to play a game of transmissions with younger kids. They can absolutely handle it. There's nothing too complex about it, and the majority of the information is open to everyone, and there's no reading required. So if you have someone in your house, a kid that's not quite reading yet, this is still one that you could probably play with them. So that is number 93, transmissions. All right, number 92. This is the last one on the list for today that I had played that was on my list in 2021. It is The Isle of Cats from designer Frank West, and the artwork was by Dragolisco and Frank West, and it was published by the City of Games in 2019. I picked up The Isle of Cats early in 2020, and it was on my list at number 7 in 2021. So this has fallen 85 places, and there is a reason for that, which you'll probably see later on in the list if you keep watching these videos. But I do very much still enjoy The Isle of Cats. It's one of my daughter's favorite ones, and I do appreciate that in the game they've included the standard play mode as well as a family specific mode. And the family mode is the one that we play the most often with my daughters, because it takes out a lot of the more complex elements of the game and just simplifies it enough that they can play it. And honestly, they love the theme. They love the cats, the cat meeples, although they're not even used in the family mode, but they still like getting them out and playing with them. So the Isle of Cats is a polyomino tile placement game with card drafting, and it is absolutely beautiful on the table, I will say that, but it is more complex if you're going to play it with the full game as it was designed. You are going to be drafting cards during the first phase, and you can draft cards that give you scoring objectives, either public or private, that's just for you. You can draft cards that let you gain treasures or gain special types of cats, or you can draft cards that give you baskets so that you can rescue cats from the island, or give you boots so that you can go earlier in turn order. And you do a standard pass draft. You'll take a card, you'll pass it, you'll take another card, you just pass it around until everybody's drafted all of the cards. You have to pay for the cards though. Most of the cards have a cost, and so you're going to pay the cost in fish, which is the currency of the game. So you'll pay for any cards that you want to keep. You'll play some of them at that point, like the lesson cards, and then you'll go into the phase where you're going to play any of your cat rescue basket and boots cards, and that'll determine the turn order. So you'll adjust turn order depending on what everybody played, and then you'll go out and rescue these polyomino tile cats from the center of the table. Those cats are going to be placed onto your boat. It follows pretty standard tile placement rules that you've seen probably in a lot of games, where you can put your first one basically anywhere you want, and then after that you have to connect it orthogonally to at least one side of something that you've already placed. and you're going to be puzzling these cats into this boat board that you have in front of you. And you want to do things like cover up the rats that are pre-printed on your boat, because those are worth negative points. And you want to keep cats of the same color together, because the bigger the group of the same color cats, the more points you're going to earn at the end of the game. And so you're also going to have to pay or bribe these cats with fish to leave the island and get onto your boat. So you're managing your fish currency to both purchase cards in the first phase and then also to rescue cats in this third phase. And then at the end of each round, or at the beginning of each round, you're going to get a fresh influx of fish. So there's a lot going on in the game in the standard mode, which that was the standard mode. In family mode, you strip out the currency. You don't use the fish. You don't have to pay for anything. You strip out all of the drafting elements. You do have some goal cards, which you can play either as private goals, or a lot of times we'll play them as public goals with kids that are too young to read, so that you can read them for them and kind of remind them what their goal is that they're going for. But in the family mode, you essentially just take turns drafting cats from the island and placing them onto your boat. You're still going to earn points for your biggest cat families. And so it becomes more of just a puzzle for the kids in particular of how do I fit all of these cats on my boat without running out of space where I can't place something, because they are really funky shaped tiles. So that is my number 92, which is the Isle of Cats. Okay, we are at number 91, which is the last one for the list today. Number 91 is another new entry to the list. This is a game that I was gifted in 2021. It is the 2020 game Dune Imperium. Dune Imperium was published by Dire Wolf Games. It was designed by Paul Denon with artwork from Clay Brooks, Raul Ramos, and Nate Storm. This is a game that everyone was talking about back in 2020 when it came out at the end of the year. It was winning all kinds of awards. And because I watch a lot of board game content, there was constantly something on in the background around that time of people just raving about how great Dune Imperium was. It was not a game that was on my radar really, because the theme did not really appeal to me at all. I am not a Dune fan. I don't really care that much about the IP, but my husband is a Dune fan, and he has watched all of the movies and the series, and I think he's read the books, or at least partially read some of the books. And so this is actually a game that he picked up and gifted to me for Mother's Day in 2021. So Dune Imperium is a worker placement game with a little bit of deck building. It's, I think, more hand management than deck building, but it's a little bit of deck building because you will be buying cards and trashing cards from your deck. So in Dune Imperium, you are going to be going out to different locations on the board and taking different actions. Your goal is basically to earn 10 victory points. The first person to earn 10 victory points wins. And the locations out on the board can do things like increase your influence with different factions or allegiances, gain you resources like spice and Solani, which I believe is the money, the currency. You can get an additional worker. There's all kinds of different things that you can do out on the board. And then once you've taken all of your worker placement turns, then you will take a final turn where any cards that you have left over in your hand that you didn't play, you will be able to use their ability at the bottom to buy new cards for your deck and also increase your combat value. And if you've deployed any troops into the combat as part of your worker placement, then you will be involved in the combat, which is basically just an area majority. And if you win the combat, you'll get a benefit from the combat card that was out for that round. The first several combat cards are going to just be primarily earning you additional resources. But as you get further on into the game, those combat cards are going to earn you 1, maybe even at times 2 victory points, which is huge in a game where you're racing to 10. So I have played Dune Imperium multiplayer once with my husband, but the 2-player mode for Dune Imperium requires you to use the app for the AI player. So I have played 2-player with my husband. I have also played this mostly solo. And both of those use cases, you are going to use the app to simulate either 1 or 2 other players to get you to where it feels more like a 3-player game and has someone else engaging in those combats with you, because that's a big part of the game. It is one that I enjoy, and I find that it is very engaging. I get enthralled in it when I'm playing it, even solo, because you are playing against 2 other opponents, and they really do ramp up quickly, and they are hard to beat, even on sort of like the easier difficulty levels. The app works really, really well. You don't have to use the app. They include solo AI cards in the box as well. But I find that the app is much easier to use because it tells you exactly where to go with the AI player's pawns, as well as gives you like a check box option to say, I've done this action, I've done this action, I've done this action. So you don't forget to do anything for the solo AI. It makes it really easy to run. But my number one thing that puts Dune Imperium this far down the list is just the IP. It doesn't really interest me. The artwork is fine, but it isn't anything kind of to like write home about. It's not that great. I know a lot of people have complained about the component quality and sort of the aesthetics of the game. I ended up getting stickers for my copy, so everything looks a little bit nicer. I kept all the wood components. I didn't upgrade anything, and I haven't played with any of the expansions yet, but it is a game that I enjoy. I don't know for sure if it'll stay in my collection forever. I wouldn't be surprised if it gets bumped off of the top 100 at some point as newer games come out. But for right now, it is a game that I definitely enjoy. And if you asked me to play Dune Imperium, I would absolutely say yes. It is a fun game and I like playing it. So that is number 91, Dune Imperium. All right, so that is the end of the first section of the list for today. I hope that everyone enjoyed this list and will stick around, come back for the next one up, which will be 90 through 81. And if you enjoyed this content, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel so that you don't miss anything. Also, follow us over on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Until next time, enjoy playing games with your family, your friends, and even solo. Bye.